Velma is the smartest person in the Scooby gang. She's wearing glasses. Because of this though, she usually solves the mysteries at the end. She solves it right after they unmask the monster, not before. No way. There's no way. So I always wondered if it was possible to solve these mysteries as a viewer. This episode starts at the Bocephus Wrestling Federation. The owner is showing off a demonstration, and during the demonstration, a big purple, two-hand, one-sided monster shows up and literally makes the two wrestlers fall at least 20 feet from the air. That's murder. The murdering, bad. So this is the first time we see this monster known as Titanic Twist. And here's Velma unmasking the monster. It's two little kids. I know. Spoiler! But look, I'm not here to find out the killer. I'm here to see if us as viewers can back up Velma's explanation. Velma makes 4 points. Instantly before the unmasking, she says it's two people. They did this to scare their father, Malachi Crunch, attacked the Malachi exhibit to show Mr. Crunch that he was next, and lastly, that the kids used sleeping mist found in Malachi's trailer to knock out the wrestlers. Yeah, these kids are great. Awesome kids. And even when the dad found out, he's like, yeah, this is what wrestling's all about. These kids are great. My kids are looking after me. No, your kids attempted murder multiple times. So if you take a look at Titanic, you can tell it'd be really hard for one person to move two arms on one side of their body. Also, it wouldn't be impossible for a human to move both arms on one side. I don't know how much control they have, and I don't know how comfortable that'd be. And then obviously the costume would need a pretty big guy to fill it out. So the most obvious person is Humongous Hammer. We're good. We figured it out. And look, even Velma thought that this was who it was.
I'd say that makes him a suspect.
But we find out it's not when he saves Velma and Daphne from Titanic. So, dang. But even with Humongous Hammer off the table, it's still really hard to pin down the kids for just this 1 point, so let's get to the second point. Now, there is instant proof on this. Early on in the episode, we meet Mr. Crunch along with his kids who say, Daddy, I thought you retired from wrestling.
You already got the championship belt. Why don't you just stop here? No, you're gonna get injured.
Now, even with this knowledge, it's still really hard to nail them down, and it gets even harder. Let me explain. So after the introduction, they force their dad to leave the room, and not even 5 seconds after they exit, Titanic Twist is in the room in probably the hardest place to get to. So look, you're telling me, right? These kids exited the room, tell their dad they gotta go, got dressed up in this insane costume to get into, and then got into the ceiling of the gymnasium. It doesn't make sense. So this part makes it really hard for a viewer to pin down the kids because it just makes no sense. But it's Scooby Doo. You know, what can you do? So the third point Velma makes is that the kids attacked the Malachi exhibit to show Mr. Crunch was the next target. This is probably the best point and something the viewer could actually pick up on. After Titanic finishes wrecking the exhibit, the kids show up right after, telling their dad that Titanic Twist destroyed the exhibit. This means he's coming after you next. This makes them extremely suspicious. Firstly, how did they know it was Titanic? Now look, it could be a good assumption, because like, how could a human do that? But isn't Titanic Twist a human? I mean, I know it's two humans, but it's still a human. So they just know it's him, and they didn't even talk to anybody about it, like the gang or Humongous Hammer who actually saw Titanic Twist. So here they kind of throw themselves under the bus a little bit. So the fourth point is about the sleeping mist. We get introduced to the sleeping mist when Shaggy and Scoob try to steal some whipped cream from Malachi's van. Fun fact, it's not whipped cream, so Shaggy falls asleep. Then Titanic literally tries to murder them and sends them flying down a mountain. This is what wrestling's all about. Now I'm guessing they did this so they could keep on their little Titanic Twist thing and not get caught because they found the mist. But like, you're literally trying to murder people. Like, they could have died. I don't know. It's Scooby Doo. So after they crash, the rest of the gang finds them and Shaggy shows them the sleeping mist. And believe it or not, this seals the deal about the kids. The only people staying in Mr. Crunch's van are him and the kids. Now it's pretty obvious Mr. Crunch doesn't need the sleeping mist since he's like a huge wrestler and can knock out anybody pretty much. So just throw him off the table. So the kids are pretty much the prime suspects. I mean, they don't want their dad to wrestle, and after the attack on the exhibit, they knew it was Titanic. They tell their dad, you're his next target, which, like, how would you know? And then they kept sleeping mist in the trailer. So, boom, you got caught!
Jinkies!
I'm actually like in a little bit of disbelief. Like, of course the evidence isn't solid, and if you just watch the episode, I feel like only 5% of people could truly guess it was the kids, and like, I feel like they mostly just be like a guess. Especially when Titanic teleports to the ceiling only 5 seconds after the kids leave. Like, that part really makes it hard to put the blame on the kids. But what I am in most disbelief about is how Velma's points actually are backed up pretty well by just rewatching the episode. I always felt like Velma just said stuff and like we're like, yep, she's right, but you can actually watch the episode and back up her points, which I think was really cool.